Hi, I'm Ginny Rosencrantz with the University of Maryland Cooperative Extension Service. Well, it's very, very hot in August, but that should not keep you out of the garden. What we're going to do here is show you how to create a beautiful, colorful garden, Xeriscaping Garden. Xeriscape means basically a plant that can go ahead and be drought and heat tolerant. So we've got a variety of grasses, a variety of sedums, and junipers. And we put them together with some Coreopsis also to get a gorgeous garden that will give us all the color we want, all the texture. It'll look good all 4 seasons, spring, summer, winter, and fall, and easy to take care of. So join me coming up next on Pack 14, Delmarva Gardens. Well, I know it's really hot and dry, but that doesn't mean that you still cannot do some landscaping. We've got a really cool situation right here that is very hot. This yard right here has got a lot of irrigation on most of the spots, but right here between the driveway and the house is a small area that has no irrigation. It faces west. You get the heat off the blacktop driveway, which of course black absorbs a lot of heat and it just becomes a heat sink. We've got bricks over here that also absorb and release a lot of heat. And we've got this white vinyl siding. And white is really good for just blasting the heat and the sunlight off. So we've got here an area that has no irrigation, lots of heat, and it could be a problem. But we've got a lot of cool plants we could go ahead and work with to see if we can get this beautiful and not have it be very expensive, have it be heat tolerant, drought tolerant, and not grab people as they get out of their cars. So let's go get some plants and get started. Well, of course I've got a plant, but before we actually get planting and even arranging with the plants, we've got to do a little prep of the actual soil. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all the weeds. I'm going to go ahead and rake everything smooth. I'm going to make a trench right here so that whatever type of mulch, whether it's gravel or hardwood mulch, will not fall out of the area and onto the driveway, and then we'll go ahead and play with some plants. The first thing I'm going to do is rake everything smooth. We've gotten the weeds pulled out, and I've talked with the homeowner here, and she has a lot of spring bulbs in here. So we're going to have to kind of keep that in mind whenever we put out plants. I've asked her where they are, and she goes, pretty much everywhere. So that'll make it interesting when we're actually going to do landscaping, but those surprises are always fun. Okay, I've got this pretty much raked out. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and put an edge. Okay, what I'm doing right now is I'm making a trench between the blacktop and the soil, and also it gives me a chance to pull the soil back a little bit, make it a little bit more even. What I want to do is I want to create a V with a straight line at the blacktop and a V. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. So when I add the mulch, it's going to fall into this area right here, and the mulch will not flow over here. Whether you have a rain event or a lot of wind, the mulch will just go right in here and stop and not go any further. So that's my plan. Okay, we've got the whole place edged out and we've got it all raked out. Before we do anything else though, we should put down a pre-emergence weed killer. I'm using one that is called Preen. There's a lot of different varieties out there. Read the directions to make sure that all it says is pre-emergence and it doesn't have anything else. Sometimes this particular brand has 2,4-D, which is a broadleaf herb weed killer, and sometimes it has a non-selective weed killer, which would also kill all your plants. So I'm just going to go ahead and broadcast this slightly, walking backwards so I'm not actually stepping it. Now they often have shakers that you can go ahead and use, and if you don't have a shaker, you want to make sure you use a type of glove that's going to protect you from the chemicals. There we go. And a little bit more. There we go. Now this type of herbicide needs actually to be either watered in or covered up for it to work. If I left it out here and let the sun hit it, the sun would degrade it and it would no longer work. So that's not a good idea. So we're going to have to kind of work fast. Okay, if I was going to go ahead and use stone, you need to have a weed barrier here. The reason why is when I add the stone and spread it on this weed barrier, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to go ahead and just travel on the weed barrier. It'll fall down into this crack nicely. If I had it just on the regular soil, as soon as I started to water this in, it would actually water into the soil, and within 2-3 years, all this lovely stone would be in the soil. Now, remember I said originally that the homeowner here has got a lot of spring bulbs, daffodils, and maybe some tulips left over, probably lots of daffodils, maybe some crocuses. So if I have a weed barrier down, they will not be able to come up. So, you know, we're not going to do this. Okay, you don't always have an opportunity to borrow plants from a nursery. So the best way to go ahead and decide on a design is to check out plants that you know are going to be drought tolerant and heat tolerant. And all of these grasses and all of these Coreopsis are definitely both heat and drought tolerant. But what I've been able to do, instead of having to draw it on a piece of paper, I've gone ahead and just sort of laid it out on a driveway and see how it looks. So let me get out of the shot and let's see how we've got it. Okay, this is a grass. This is called Morning Light, and it gets to be about 3 feet tall maximum. Now they're all still in containers, so what you see now is almost their exact height once they've grown to their maximum height. This is just now starting to get in flower, so that'll be pretty. And surrounding it, I've got 2 what they call muley grasses on this side and 1 on that side, giving it an asymmetrical design, something that's going to be not exactly totally balanced, it's a little bit off balance, but I'm going to go ahead and balance the asymmetrical height of this by the color. I've got the Coreopsis here. This is the grape, and this is a really cool one. This is a brand new variety, and I really like it. And it is called Rum Punch. Is that not cool? And this is Moonlight, which I like, Moonbeam, I'm sorry, which I really like. These are all threadleaf Coreopsis, so they're going to actually die back in the wintertime. And that's another reason why I went ahead and got the grasses where I have them. The smaller grasses are Hamlin, and they're always going to stay small, but they're going to be really nice all winter long. These Coreopsis will basically cut back in the fall. So she'll have some bare spots, but with the grasses around it, it won't look so bare. And when the bulbs come up, the bulbs can come up through something like this Coreopsis and bloom and look absolutely gorgeous. And as the bulb foliage starts to die back, the Coreopsis will grow up and hide all that nasty stuff. So if she's really, really busy and has no time to do any fall or spring cleanup, not a problem. Her plants will take care of her for her. So I think that this will be a really nice, easy way to do it. But this is not the only solution. Let's go ahead and check out some other types of plants that we can go ahead and use that will also be heat and drought tolerant and maybe give different colors besides these. Okay, now this landscape relies on mostly sedums and junipers. Well, actually all sedums and junipers. And it's kind of neat to see the different varieties of sedums. Now sedums and junipers are very, very drought tolerant, very heat tolerant. As a matter of fact, one of the easiest ways to kill the sedums is to overwater them. I doubt that's going to be a problem right here. What I've tried to do is pull some colors together, so let me share with you what I've got. Over here are some upright sedums that have really pretty red flowers and kind of a greenish, bluish foliage, which I like. And I'm tying that with a sedum that's just right now mostly blues. This is called Topsy-Turvy. It comes in 2 different shapes, which I really like the texture. This is one Topsy-Turvy shape right here, and then this one right here is also it. So when you plant something like this, you can get one or the other, which is kind of neat. Bordering it, I've got a spreading sedum that's got a lot of yellow-green, which contrasts with the blue. So it makes the blue a little bit brighter, makes the green a little bit brighter with the red. So you've got the red, green, yellow kind of thing here. And I like that combination, pulling it here. Now, what I'm going to try to do is repeat some of these colors. I want to repeat the red, I want to repeat the yellow-green, and I want to repeat the blue. So if we come down here, these right here are Japanese garden junipers. They're really hardy. They spread out very nicely. They never get any taller than 2 to 3 inches. So they will kind of spread together. And I've got them planted about 2 feet apart, and I should maybe even a little bit more, but this is a small space, so we can go ahead and keep them pruned. They always will have this kind of yellow-green color even in the wintertime. And it's good to know what color these plants are in the wintertime. Now, these sedums are also going to be up in the wintertime, so you're not going to have any dead areas in the winter. That's important too. Keeping the idea of the colors going, let's go down a little further. Over here I've got a blue star juniper. This is nice. This is going to be a little bit more height, and it's got this nice kind of prickly color. It's going to always be a mounding plant, maybe about 2 feet high, 2 feet wide. And in front, I've got another ground cover juniper. This is blue rug juniper. Again, it's only going to stay about maybe an inch high and spread out and always maintain this blue-green color, even in the wintertime. I've gone ahead and kept the red colors here with the upright sedums. And just to kind of bring it together, I've used this little teeny curly sedum that also has pink flowers. So I'm trying to keep the reds and the greens going. And in front, I've got a variegated sedum that has a little bit of yellow variegation right here. So it does have a flower, and I think the flower is yellow. So I've got the yellows, I've got the reds and the greens, I've got the blues, and I've marched them down to keep it like a color flow going. As your eye sees the color flow, it kind of holds it all together, pulls it all together. And this is one of the things we could do for drought tolerant, heat tolerant xeriscaping. Neat. Okay, we've gone ahead and combined a couple of things here so we can get the best of everything. And when you think about it, whenever you're doing a landscape design, you want it to suit not only the space that it has to grow in for the sun, the shade, the watering requirements, but it also has to suit the person who lives here. It has to be something that they'll feel comfortable taking care of. It'll also have to suit how much time they have to take care of. What we've got here is a mixture of Coreopsis, sedums, and grasses. They're all very, very heat and drought tolerant. We've got a lot of nice color going on. We've got a lot of yellows right here, 2 different types of yellows actually. We've got the soft light moonbeams in front, which have a darker green foliage and very, very light yellow flowers here. And then the Xeriscape, which is also a type of Coreopsis, but a little bit heavier green and much heavier foliage. We decided to have them here because she does have a butterfly bush, and the butterfly bush is yellows and a lot of lavender. So the lavender against the yellow makes the lavender really spark, and it really brings out the lavender. Moving down, we've got the nice big grasses. This is the morning light. And morning light's got a little bit of white in it too, so you've got green and white, and then you've got the flowers. And this will give her height, which will be really nice. And in front, of course, we have the rum punch Coreopsis. I just love the color of this. It's really pretty. It's got a little bit of the yellow, pulling the yellow down here again, keeping that yellow color going. And it's got a little bit of kind of a purpley color, which is neat. And that's what color some of these grasses will turn in the fall, so that'll be nice. In front, we've got the sedums that have the yellow-green, again picking up the yellow color, but in a subtle way, not glaring. It's not all bright yellow. Nobody's going to say, oh, everything looks sick here. It's a healthy color, but a little bit of a yellow-green. And then further down here, again, we wanted a little more height, so we have the muhly grasses. Now these are roundish as opposed to flat, and they're really kind of fun looking. They will bloom later on in the fall, so you'll have things that are blooming different times. It's very, very easy when you go to a garden center and see everything in bloom at one time and go, I'm going to take one of everything. Well, if that happens, then you'll only have one period of bloom. And this one, we've got some things in flowers, some things that have already flowered, and some things that haven't quite flowered, but we're knowing that they're going to flower soon. In front, we've got some more Coreopsis. These have already bloomed before. And so again, we've got a balance of colors and all that. Okay, what we're going to do now is get started in planting these things, and then we'll go ahead and mulch them, water them in. It'll be gorgeous. One of the neat things when you start digging, especially on the Delmarva areas, you'll notice that there's a lot of sand. If you come and look down into this hole, you can see that there's a lot of topsoil, and then at the very, very bottom, there's a lot of just plain sand. Just sand. So there's excellent drainage here. Again, very drought tolerant. Okay, what we've done with these Coreopsis is we've gone ahead and put them down on the ground and taken a sharp spade and cut here and here like that to break the roots up. The roots have a tendency in a container to keep growing around and around and around, and we don't want to do that. If we had the time, we could go ahead and just very lightly pull it apart, but just making those 2 cuts really does a good job. Okay, when I plant this, I want to make sure that the ground that I'm going to put it in is flat, and I want to make sure I'm going to plant this a little high. Now, looking at this, this is just about a ½ inch higher than the ground level, and that's exactly what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and mix the soil. That I've got some sand and topsoil here, and there we go, put it in like this. And when I'm all done, that's when I'm going to go ahead and water everything in. All right. Good, that's it. Well, this would have taken a lot longer, but I just went ahead and found a couple of good friends, and with time-lapse photography, look how much we've gotten done. Isn't this beautiful? And you can see how the yellows and the blues and purples and then the rum punch work so well together, and all of these all just tie in so nicely. So I've got 2 more to plant, and once again, basically you move the plant aside, dig down in, and the reason why I'm putting the soil in the wheelbarrow is, again, there's about 4 inches of really good topsoil because they've gone ahead and mulched it for many, many years. And as mulch breaks down, it turns into wonderful, rich topsoil. So at the bottom, of course, there's a lot of sand. And I would like to go ahead and mix those together so when I'm backfilling the plants, I've got the sand, which is this really light color here, and the topsoil, which is this nice dark color, all mixed together. Kind of like making cookie dough. Okay, that's mixed in together. And then again, when I have a flat bottom for the pot to sit in, I always sort of check to see if I've got the hole deep enough, and you don't have to take it out of the pot to do that. Just sit it in and say, yep, that's high enough is what I need. You take the pot off. Sometimes these pots are difficult to get off. Sometimes you just have to hit them a lot there. This was easy. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the roots again. Put them right down here, move the pot out of the way. And if you cut the roots in the garden, you don't have to clean up the soil afterwards. You just put it back in. And I'm going to switch over to my shovel. The spade is good for cutting the roots. The shovel is easier for adding the extra soil to backfill. There we go. You want to make sure that you cover all the roots around the sides, front, side, and back. And like I said, we'll go ahead and water it in when we're done with this, and then we'll go ahead and mulch it off. Okay, that's that. And this is the plant that we've been looking for. The last plant. This is a sedum. Now sometimes when you have something like the sedum, you can go ahead and do all but the sedums, mulch it, and then plant this into the mulch. And I thought of that, but then I decided to just do it this way because I have so many helping hands who will make sure it'll all work out perfectly. Okay, there's the potting soil. Once again, oh, here's a bulb. Whenever you're digging, you find things like this. We'll go ahead and plant this again too. But first of all, I want to mix the potting soil. Well, actually, this is not potting soil. This is the garden soil and the sand. And first thing I'm going to do is plant this bulb. When you've got the garden soil worked up so nicely, it's really easy. Just go ahead and do something like that. Push your shovel aside, and as you pick it up, there's a large hole, and I've got that down about 7 inches now. There we go. That's done. You have to kind of watch that you're not stepping on the plants. This one also comes up easily. It's a good idea to take the tags out. Now this one, the roots are very, very fine, so instead of going ahead and using the spade, I'm just going to go ahead and mesh it around a little bit. Now, not all of these roots were here, which is a shame. Sometimes that happens, especially in a nursery that waters a lot, and these are sedums. So we'll go ahead and make sure I'm not doing it too deep. That's perfect. And grab some soil. There we go. Okay, now all we need to do now is water everything in, rake it out one more time, mulch it, and we're good. Okay, when you're watering in your plants, the first thing you need to do is make sure you take any of the nozzles off so you just have the plain hose. The other thing you need to do is test the temperature. If you have really, really hot water, you can burn the plants. So let's get it going. Okay, that's not too bad. All right, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start back here with the Coreopsis, and what I do is I put the hose right around where I planted. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that I've got a good soil to root. And then when I'm done, I go ahead and crimp it. And then I take the spade and I go all the way around like this. So again, what I'm doing is I'm creating a nice kind of a mesh or a mud heap between where the original garden soil is and the new plant. There we go. Okay. Well, what I'm doing is I'm removing all of the air pockets and I'm making a good fit between the old potting soil and the new potting soil. There we go. All right, put that in there. Now, even though that these are drought tolerant plants, the homeowner is going to have to water these fairly well the first year just to make sure that they get established. After that, they'll be fine. But you'll still have to go ahead and water this particular fall and next spring at least 2 to 3 times a week just to be sure. Well, after I've watered everything in, you can see sometimes the water has a tendency to pull all the soil away from the roots. This is very, very easily fixed by taking your rake when you're smoothing things out and bringing the soil back up. There we go. And I've got all this raked out nice and even, so I'm going to go ahead and add the mulch and we will be good to go. Well, the last step is adding the mulch, and if you have a pickup truck or a friend with a pickup truck, you can use bulk mulch. If not, you can use bags of mulch. They all work just fine. And when you're going to add the mulch, you just want to take some and sprinkle it carefully around the plants, just like that, covering the ground. You want to go ahead and sweep when you're all done. And you want to make sure that you have at least 1 to 2 inches of mulch. More than 2 inches of mulch is actually going to inhibit the flow of water into the plants. So keep it between 1 and 2 inches and you'll do fine. Now you've seen how easy it is to go ahead and create a beautiful drought-tolerant xeriscape yard with color and texture for all seasons. Don't let the heat stop you. Just enjoy your garden. Thank you very much for joining me for Delmarva Gardens right here on Pack 14.